Have you ever tried to sew a rolled hem in a really fine, delicate fabric and it is just not working for you? It keeps coming unrolled and it's a disaster. And the same thing might happen to you if you're trying to sew a miniature rolled hem like a 1/16 of an inch wide. You just can't get it to stay. No matter how much you iron it or pin it, it is just not working. Well, today I have a solution for you. It's a technique and method using Ban-Rol. Today I'm gonna go over how to use this Ban-Rol on 2 different types of fabric and 2 different widths. And one of them is gonna be super teeny. So you're gonna wanna follow along to the end and make sure you see that one. Ban-Rol is a really narrow piece of trim here. So you can see that it is a plain woven little piece of trim and it's been sized. So you can see that there's a sizing on it, making it really stiff. So it's a really stiff little narrow piece of fabric essentially made out of a plain weave. You can also buy this by the yard and a lot of times it'll be called crinoline. Sometimes this can be a little hard to find if you're just searching the word Ban-Rol. I'll put some links down below to help you find it. Now that you know what Ban-Rol is, you're probably wondering, how does this help me with my hems? And I don't want really stiff hems like this. Don't worry, this is not going to stay inside of your hem, making it stiff. Instead, we're going to use this as a little guide, but first we have to prepare it. Real quick, before I show you how to prepare it, if you're enjoying Sewing Anastasia, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my online and in-person sewing classes and the online sewing club. There's links down below for everything. Now let's get back to prepping our Ban-Rol. The first thing you want to do is cut a length of Ban-Rol. So if your hem is 5 yards long, you want to cut 5 yards of this. If your hem is only 3 feet, you want to cut 3 feet of it. I'm just going to be demoing on some scrap fabric today, so I'm just going to cut it the length of my fabric. Now I have my Ban-Rol cut just a little longer than my piece of fabric, and now we need to start taking it apart a little bit. The easiest way to get this started is take a pin, stick it in here, and pop out that little lengthwise fiber. Then once you do that, you should just be able to hold it and just pull it out all the way down. Super easy. Now I'm going to do it again. So we're just going to take the pin, we're going to pop it in right before the fiber, push it out to the edge, grab a hold, and pull. So basically, you want to keep ripping out those lengthwise fibers until the cross grain ones are the length you want for your hem. So if you wanted a 1/2 inch hem, it'd be way back here. If you wanted an inch, it'd be way back here. But I want a 1/4 inch hem. So I'm going to keep ripping out those lengthwise little fibers until my cross grain ones are a 1/4 inch long. Now I've got the little cross grain fibers to a 1/4 of an inch. Now we have that 1/4 inch prepared on the Ban-Rol, and you're probably wondering, how does this help me with my hem? Well, let me show you. The first fabric I'm going to use this method on is satin, and you know how hard satin can be to roll hem. But this Ban-Rol is gonna make it super easy. Our first step is placing your fabric right side face up, so my shiny satin side is face up, and I'm going to place the Ban-Rol right at the edge of the fabric. So those cross fibers are going to line up right at the edge of the fabric. Now that you have this lined up, when you sew, you're going to be sewing right where the density starts. So we don't want to sew in the density. We just want to sew right at the edge where those vertical and horizontal fibers meet. So when I'm sewing right next to that density there. So right next to those horizontal fibers. You're still going to backstitch. You can still backstitch. And you just want to make sure when you're doing this that you're keeping the edge of your fabric right next to the edge of the Ban-Rol there. And I'm just using my regular straight stitch with a stitch length of 2.5. And this stuff's really hard to pin into because it's so stiff. So I would just keep lining it up as you're sewing. When you get to the back of your project, you can backstitch, cut. Now let's take a look at it. We have a few more steps. So your stitch should be right at the very edge where those 2 fibers meet. Now we're gonna take the Ban-Rol and we're gonna fold it under. We're gonna go over to the iron, be careful not to pull it off, and we're gonna give this a nice iron. So now what we're going to do is take the fabric and flatten it out with your iron. Make a nice flat seam. And if you get some water on your fabric, that's okay. Now everything is nice and flat. Now that we have that ironed, we're gonna take our project, we're gonna flip it to the wrong side. Now you can see that little edge there of the band roll, and that 1/4 inch is going to flip in. And that rigid edge on the band roll, when we're sewing, we're gonna push it to the edge of the fabric. And it's gonna help give us that nice, perfect, crisp rolled hem. So what's happening here is this little 1/4 inch, when we push it to the edge, it's giving it some structure inside of here. And then we're going to add our little edge stitch for our rolled hem. And it's going to make it so nice and easy to sew and incredibly even. The key to making this work great before you start is really pushing that band roll over to the left and giving it some pressure. So that way this hem is nice and tight. And again, you can back stitch like normal and then just continue all the way down. Now let's take a look at it. Look at how beautiful and even the stitches from the bottom of the fabric. But we still have this band roll in here and we need to get it out of there. And this is really where the magic happens. Removing the band roll is so easy. Hold your hem and then just start pulling the band roll, and you're gonna notice that it just pops right out of your hem because we actually didn't sew into any of the lengthwise fibers catching it. We just sewed at the very edge. So it just pops right out. And because it's so stiff, your sewing machine needle never really hits it and sews into it in place. It just sews right around it. And then we're left with this beautiful hem on the inside as well. Look how incredible this looks. The width of it is perfect, and I'm using a slippery satin fabric, and it was so easy to hem. And a nice little hack about this band roll is that you can keep reusing it again and again and again. So you don't have to rip out all those lengthwise threads every single time you want to create a 1/4 inch hem. You just go ahead, grab your band roll that's a 1/4 inch wide, and hem it up. Now that we've done our 1/4 inch hem on the satin, we are going to create a rolled hem, a 1/16 of an inch wide on chiffon. And you're really gonna see how this band roll helps you, because we all know 1/16 of an inch rolled hem on chiffon, practically impossible. Now we're gonna do the same thing that we did for the other one. We're gonna rip out those rows of threads until we get a 1/16 of an inch wide. And now you can see how little this is. It is an extremely small hem. So let's go sew up this rolled hem. Okay, so now we're putting the stitch in a 1/16 of an inch away. Again, just following our stitching line right next to the vertical line of webbing that's there. And because this is so small, just really take your time. Reposition anything you need to. Now we're done with that first row of stitching. So you can see right where those stitches are, super close to the edge. We're gonna have a miniature little hem. Now we're gonna do what we did before. We're going to take the band roll, we're gonna flip our fabric and push it to the inside. Since my fabric's so delicate, I'm not going to iron it. We are just going to push it over to the very edge, and we're gonna add that second row of stitches for our rolled hem. So now I'm gonna add that second row of stitches, keeping everything nice and tight. And you can see how small our little hem's gonna be. get to the end, you can add your back stitches, and let's take it out. Now is the moment of sewing magic, where we're going to have that perfect miniature hem. So now we're going to hold our little hem and we're going to pull out that Ban-Rol. Sometimes getting it started can be just a little bit tricky. There we go. So we're just gonna keep working our way all the way down. Look at this amazing miniature little rolled hem. It looks great on the inside. All the edges are tucked under. It looks excellent on the outside. This is such a great way to get that miniature little rolled hem. And we did this on chiffon. Isn't Ban-Rol such an amazing technique? And you can choose what width you want your hem by how many of those little strings that you pull out. And you can keep reusing this again and again and again. It's not a one-time use. That's cool too. And it makes hemming so much easier, especially on these really hard fabrics. Miniature hems on chiffon, small hems on satin. I mean, these fabrics are both extremely hard to roll hem, and we did it super easy with Ban-Rol. Let me know if you've used Ban-Rol before and where you like to use it in your projects down below in the comments. And if you haven't tried it yet, are you going to try it? Do you think it's going to help you in your projects? And if you're having trouble finding Ban-Rol, don't forget, there's a link down below in the description. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when the new tutorials come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. This video was for you guys. Let me know what else you want to see down below in the comments. And don't forget, I teach classes online and in person here in my design studio. And we also have an online sewing club, which is a great place to continue your sewing education. Links are down below for everything. And if you want to know what's going on in the studio right now, make sure you check out my Instagram stories. Thank you so much for watching today. Bye.